And to this day, I struggle to reread that letter without cringing the entire time, because it's damn near embarrassing looking back and thinking like, wow, I was literally begging and pleading with this man. And none of us should ever, ever, ever have to be in that kind of position where we're begging someone to love us correctly. We shouldn't have to do that, nor subject ourselves to that. Hey boo, this is Nika, and I am pleasantly unbothered. I hope you are well. I have just been sharing all of my business lately, so if you've been watching, you know by now why I decided to end my relationship with my daughter's dad and exactly how I gave the ring back, or more or less how. If you haven't seen either of those videos, you can check them out by clicking up here and you'll be all caught up. Today we're talking about the exact moment that I knew that I had to end our relationship for good. And I say it that way because there were several times in the past that I told him it was over and I thought I meant it, but I guess I didn't like mean it yet until this specific instance. And I know that I am unfortunately not alone in this experience of being stuck on the makeup to breakup cycle with someone that you care about. And so I thought I'd share this experience with you because far too many of us just don't know when to say enough is enough and when to free ourselves from toxic situations. So hopefully by hearing about my experience, you can gain something from this, especially if you can relate. Before we get into it, I want to remind you about an opportunity that'll be coming up in the near future for a select group of you to work with me one-on-one to learn how to further build and develop your confidence, as well as create a love life that truly works for you and not against you. Because believe me, I've been in the against you type of situation too damn many times. And I'd like to pass along all the wisdom that I have to those of you who need it so that you don't have to learn things the hard way that I did. If you've been watching my videos for a while now, you know that I've been through quite a bit with the men that I've dated and been in relationships with, and that I've come a very long way in my journey towards self-love, self-discovery, and confidence. I am thankful to say that I was able to completely transform my life in all the best ways, and now I'd like to help some of you do the same. So if you're interested in learning directly from me and with me one-on-one, click the link at the top of the description box below to join the waitlist, and I'll be sure to keep you updated. I would absolutely love the opportunity to work with each and every one of you, but of course there's only so much of me to go around, and in order to give the one-on-one focused attention that I would like to, I'm gonna have to limit the amount of spaces for this, so definitely jump on it if you're interested. Hit that link, the details will be coming soon, and I'll let you know. I'm so hyped, can you tell? Oh my gosh. Take a breath, sis, take a breath. Okay, I'm back, we good. Okay, so when I was with my ex-fiance, I thought that I was in the best relationship of my life. And at that time, it actually was the best relationship that I had been in up to that point. But as good as it was, there were just a lot of ups and downs. There were a lot of arguments, a lot of repeated arguments where the same issue would continue to come up over and over again without us ever really resolving it. And although it felt like we were really compatible because we had a lot of chemistry and a lot of things in common, I discovered over time that we were actually really different people. Like at our core, we were entirely different. And the longer we were together, the more apparent those differences became, and the more they had an impact on our relationship and on our bond. Now, I did talk about all this in detail in the videos that are linked up here, so if you want to get down to the nitty-gritty about all of it, definitely check those out. But as hard as it was to be together sometimes, I couldn't help but think of all the things that we had been through and all the plans that we had for a future together and all the time and love that we had invested in each other. And those were the things that would eventually cause me to forgive him despite my better judgment and despite that nagging voice that, girl, this is not gonna work. I would decide to forgive him, we'd make up, and we'd move on. And this went on for years. I cannot count the amount of times that I felt deep down in my soul that this relationship just wasn't it. As much love as I had for him, every time these issues would come up, I would feel it and I would know it to be true, because I knew that things simply could not work out if it meant that I'd have to keep sacrificing my happiness and my peace of mind just for us to be together. But I loved him, and I wasn't ready to let go of all of our future hopes and dreams and all the time we had put in and all the stress we had been through. It was like, if I give that up, then what was it for, right? So we'd stay together and we'd keep investing more time and more love and more stress into the relationship. But there was a turning point though, and it solidified everything for me. One day, after having one of our weekly morning arguments, I drove to my job in tears, just like I had done on several other occasions, bawling the entire time with my fresh face of makeup running down my face. I don't remember exactly what we argued about, but it was probably over something that shouldn't have really been that big of a deal. And I say that because that's what most of our arguments used to be based on. But our arguments, no matter how small, would always highlight how selfish and manipulative he was and how much he lacked accountability and proper communication skills. It would feel like I was banging my head against a wall trying to talk to this man, let alone argue with this man over whatever nonsense it was. And I would end up breaking down in frustration and leaving the house to start my workday on such a pleasant note. Now, if you ask him, he did nothing wrong. The argument was probably my fault, and I was probably making too much of something or being dramatic or over exaggerating or some other variation of an excuse that he would use to gaslight me. When I arrived at work that morning, I knew that I couldn't possibly be productive, let alone think straight, with the kind of pain and disappointment that was on my heart in that moment. So I sat in the car and I decided to put it all in a letter. And let me tell you, I bore my soul to this man. I laid it all out on the table. I put everything into words that I wasn't able to say before or in the heat of the moment, as clearly and as vulnerably and as specifically as I could. I let him know every single thing that I was feeling about our relationship. And I laid out what I felt were our only two options for moving forward. We could either stay together and work out these specific things that I listed in the letter, or we'd have to go our separate ways. Those were the only two options at this point. Your girl was at her wit's end. And to this day, I struggle to reread that letter without cringing the entire time, because it's damn near embarrassing looking back and thinking like, wow, I was literally begging and pleading with this man to love me correctly, to love me in the way that I was loving him and that I felt like I deserved to be loved. This man who swore up and down that he loved me, that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me, that he wanted to build a family with me and create a life with me. Here I was pleading with him to try harder and just give a damn. And the thing that always killed me about it was that I didn't feel like I was asking for too much. I felt like what I was asking for was kind of just the bare minimum. Maybe my standards are too high. Maybe my bar set too high. I don't know. But for me, it was always like, am I really asking for that much? I'm giving it to you. So what's the problem? Like, come on now. And none of us should ever, ever, ever have to be in that kind of position where we're begging someone to love us correctly. We shouldn't have to do that, nor subject ourselves to that. So all that to say that I'm not going to be able to read you the letter, but if you want to check it out and you don't mind cringing a little bit or a lot, you can click the link in the description box below to read the actual letter that I wrote to him that day. I talked about how much I loved him, what I felt I deserved in a relationship, what I thought I brought to the table, and what needed to change if we ever had a chance of staying together. I told him that there was no ultimatum, but that a decision would have to be made. And I cried the entire time that I wrote this letter to the man that I loved, the man who I thought was gonna be my future husband. I seriously poured my heart out. So I emailed him with the subject line, "Please read without interruptions." And I don't know if he read the whole thing or if he even cared enough to. But his response shortly after was something along the lines of, I'm so tired of your hurtful words. Please stop trying to make this about me. Or something like that. And that's basically all he had to say. After years of us being together and everything that we had gone through, his response to me pouring my heart out and pleading to be loved better by him was to pretty much point the finger and tell me that I was the one being hurtful and making something out of nothing. And that was probably the best response I could have gotten, because it told me everything that I needed to know. From that day on, I was like, you know, bet. We are over, and there will be no future chances. There's no reason for it, because you literally just showed me that you really don't give a damn at all. That was all the confirmation I needed. It was kind of tricky though, because we were living together at the time, and California is so damn ridiculously expensive. So I wasn't actually able to move out and like leave right away. But for the rest of the time that I was there, things were just never the same again. I checked out. I started to prepare myself emotionally and financially for a future that he was no longer gonna be a part of, where we would no longer be living together, sharing expenses, and taking care of our daughter together. When he would try to provoke me or start an argument over some nonsense, I just wouldn't engage. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of ruining my day or my mood with his selfishness or his negativity. Maintaining my sanity and taking care of my daughter were the most important things, so that's what I focused on. I was the epitome of pleasantly unbothered. And like I've said in my other videos, I don't particularly enjoy sharing my business or airing my dirty laundry all over these internet streets. But I make this video as a cautionary tale to anyone who is overstaying their welcome in a relationship that's simply not working and not heeding the signs that the relationship is not right for you. Now, I'm not trying to talk anybody out of their relationship. I want everyone to do whatever it is that works for them and their situation. I'm just saying that my relationship with my ex was one of the best things that ever happened to me, while also being one of the hardest, most heartbreaking things that I've ever been through. I knew that I was unhappy for a long time, but I didn't know how I would survive without him or what life would be like if I left. I didn't know how I was gonna be able to walk away from him and give up on the future that we had planned together. And I knew that by walking away, I was essentially choosing to become a single mother. But I can tell you now that life does go on. I have never been happier, nor have I ever had more to be grateful for. And I'm thankful to say that despite all of the craziness that's going on in the world right now, I feel like I am absolutely thriving. And whatever your situation may be, I hope you know that you deserve the same. Okay? Okay. So let me know what you think in the comments. I look forward to continuing the conversation with you down there. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. I'd really appreciate it. Don't have me out here telling you all my business for nothing. And while you're at it, definitely subscribe, because there's lots more to come. Next week, I think we're actually gonna talk about these high value men that have been running rampant lately, because if I hear one more podcast or see one more video about these men, I might just snap. So I feel like we need to have a conversation about that. Please come back next week and let's talk about it. And of course, don't forget the links are down below if you want to know more about the opportunity to work with me, or if you want to read the cringeworthy letter. I mean, you've been warned. It's up to you. I'll share it if you won't. But get ready to cringe. I know that there are 1,000 other things that you could be doing or watching right now, so I certainly appreciate you being here with me, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye.